basically, when it comes to the very promising era of startup, fundraising, and everything related, the topic is really famous and popular, especially now. And I'm sure that you may remember when schools asked parents to help kids sell candy bars for fundraising, correct? But startup fundraising isn't so different, except instead of $2 chocolate, we are pitching $20 million ideas. So today we'll definitely dive into what roles data plays in the process of fundraising and startup, and how to definitely craft the perfect pitch to secure funding, and whether an AI-driven idea could be your ticket to a unicorn status. All this and more is on the agenda for our session, but first I'm proud to introduce our speaker for the session, Mark Lima, CTO and CEO of Startupbootcamp. As global technology lead of Europe's #1 startup accelerator, Mark works at the forefront of innovation daily, guiding both the company as well as its over 1,000 startups in the right tech direction. Welcome, Mark, and thanks for finding your time to join.
Thank you for having me, Renata. I'm really looking forward to this webinar and this talk. So let's just dive right in.
Thanks. So, Mark, I'm pretty sure you didn't land in C-suite of startup accelerator straight out of university. And there were years of professional growth, networking, maybe even personal development, and of course, building your own brand. And along the way, some of your ideas even grew into companies that actually worked. Back to 2014, you founded Tom Kabinet, a startup that disrupted the publishing industry. Can you tell us what the company was about and what happened to it finally?
Sure, and I can do this in a 1, 3, or 7 minute pitch, or a couple of hours, but let me take the short route here.
Yeah.
So in 2014, I actually had the idea to start selling second-hand ebooks. So ebooks that were previously owned, you would buy them on either Amazon, or we have a local reseller here in the Netherlands. And I was trying to get a platform up and running, and we managed to do so, where after you've done with the ebook, you could actually put it up for sale. That gave quite a turmoil in the publishing industry, because day 2 of us being live, we had a first subpoena in, which is, by the way, I learned it's quite good as a startup, because you get a lot of free publicity. So we were able to be featured on the national news, so people actually knew that our platform was live, and yeah, that was it. And then in your question, you also had what happened to it. So after 6 years going back in and out of courts, actually winning the first 2 rounds in court, but the last one was with the European Court of Justice. And I knew that I had to go to that instance to actually get an approval for the total European market. And unfortunately, the European Court of Justice says we are not going to allow it. It's a too disruptive idea for a fragile market. So I had to fold the company in 2020. Yeah.
Unfortunately, being a pioneer in some industries is tough, especially when you don't have enough support for this, or when you have someone who is against this idea or simply doesn't love ebooks at all.
Yeah, so the thing is that the public was ready for it. I had 10,000 active users on the platform. The platform was self-sustaining. You could onboard yourself, you could do your transactions without my help. The thing is that the legal part is always lagging behind a couple of months, most of the time a couple of years. And when we entered this market, it was uncharted territory. I had lawyers saying, "Can we please represent you?" Because this is why they became a lawyer. To find out new jurisdiction grounds, and unfortunately, in this instance, the European Court of Justice did not choose the side of the consumer, but they chose the side of, let's say, the publishers and the suppliers. And this is all pre-NFT time. So I think if I would have launched a startup now with the current technologies, there might be a better chance of getting an approval. But back then, it was all based on, I would say, trust your customers and trust your publishers. So that's why we had to fold it. But it was a fun ride. I learned so many things, and actually, that's also how I became acquainted with Startupbootcamp, because I was part of the program. So that's I would say the nice heritage of being that entrepreneur. Yeah.
I like that because in this way it's really interesting to listen to the role and what role experience with Tom Kabinet has played in your current professional path with Startup Bootcamp. Bear in mind that the roots of your business, basically the roots of your current role, go to the business you started long ago.
Yeah, so before I started my own company, Tom Kabinet, like you just said, I was a self-employed entrepreneur.
Mhm.
But in English, it even sounds strange, like it's self-employed entrepreneur. I would
Mhm.
say I was a self-employed professional. And in the Dutch language, you sometimes say that you are then still an entrepreneur. But I really learned with Tom Kabinet what it takes to be not a self-employed professional, but a true entrepreneur. And the main difference is that if you are a self-employed professional, you get other people's problems and you're asked with your, let's say, the things that you can do to solve other people's problems. But it's always they ask you to solve it, and the only thing you get paid once you get the solution back. Now, as an entrepreneur, you need to have a different mindset. It's really about, okay, I see this gap in the market, I see this opportunity, and not thinking how can I only pursue that thing, but it's more who do I need in order to get this opportunity into a business. So the true entrepreneurial mindset is a different one. Instead of solving problems that are out there, you look at a niche in the market and you try to find the best people around you to help you turn that, let's say, market gap into a feasible business. Now I'm still here. My host just was dropped from the internet. I'm not sure if the recording still continues, but let's see. And for those who are just watching, again, if this recording still continues, then this is the moment where you can ask your questions and you can actually continue saying, oh, let's connect over LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn. It's Mark Jellema. Quite easily, you will find me as the CEO, CTO of Startup Bootcamp. And yeah, feel free to reach out. Absolutely. Well, hi, Renata. Like I said, I was not sure if the recording kept on going, so I introduced myself a little bit more, etc. But I think if you lose it, then the recording stops as well.
To be honest, the recording was in process, so it was a little trick just to help you get introduced more to the audience who's listening to you. But anyway, Mark, everything is fine, to be honest. So thanks a lot for sharing the insights regarding your start and how the start helped you to enter a really big accelerator, which is now helping a lot of startups, not only from Europe, I suppose. I bet that some companies from Asian markets and some startups from the other markets are also knocking the door when opening their business, at least for some ideas or some recommendations, right? Because the very idea of the accelerator, startup accelerator, is to help with, say, a specific list of where to start, right? So step-by-step instructions that are supported with the following up demo day in front of the venture capitalist and so on. We'll dive deeper into this a bit later. When it comes to the real stats, I've investigated some reports, and for instance, Crunchbase reports European startups raised over $15 billion in 2024, with KPMG noting over 15 billion in quarter four alone. And looking ahead, Morgan Stanley, for example, highlights that healthcare, semiconductors, AI, and also, if I'm not mistaken, telecom are the hottest domains to invest in for 2025 and beyond. So such large investment volumes, however, to be honest, I've seen founders crying after failing to raise funds. This is horrible, but this is the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And the reasons for their failures can vary from ideas maturity to the AI hype making investors cautious about another dot-com bubble. Mark, numbers are one thing, but real experience is what truly counts. What ideas or technologies, in your opinion, have higher chances to get funded in the upcoming decade?
So what we see at Startup Bootcamp is a shift from, I would say, up until 2, 3 years ago. If you would have a SaaS company, you would be able to scale fast. You were always on high interest of VCs or of angel investors. Now, currently, it's more shifting. And then, of course, we had and I'm saying already we had, because I think now with the AI thing where we are, you see that investors inspect or expect more than just a OpenAI wrapper. They expect you to either have something very, very kick-ass, very, very, let's say, upfront, or they expect you to build your own. And I'm not really a big fan of that, but sometimes we get very interesting propositions there to build your own LLM or to build your own data set, because it takes so much time and money. I mean, Sam Altman even told it, the CEO of OpenAI, said the next unicorn will be some small company that uses existing LLMs to do something spectacular, because it takes just too much time, effort, energy, money, what have you, to build your own LLM and to get your own data sets. Now, I do believe that another trend that I see, because we have 10 domains where we get startups from, and like you also said in the introduction, it's not only from the Netherlands nor Europe, it's also worldwide. We see startups that come in on the deep tech and robotics part as well. And that's something, it's more capital intensive. It's more that if you really crack the technical, let's say, magical formula, then the market will definitely buy your product. And that is something that really has a risen interest of venture capitalists. But on the AI part, I think that the first hype of everything becomes AI is already a little bit behind us. People are now saying, okay, we use it every day, but what's the real thing? And of course, the agentic AI, where you can tell your computer to not only give you a thought or a creative idea, but actually do something on your behalf. That's something that we see happening now, or that we get many people asking us of how or where is that going? And then also about the deterministic part of that. If it's an AI agent based on an LLM, how can you be sure that whatever the result is coming from that is actually the result that you're looking for? Because it is still let's say, the LLM can still hallucinate a little bit. And you don't want to have that in a process that needs to be 100% deterministic. So that's where we see people coming up with solutions, or how to make sure that LLMs are less, let's say, making up things. Yeah.
Thanks, Mark, for this good example of how you can approach how you can approach investors, or those who can help you with fundraising or supporting your idea. And AI or LLM-based products, right, and ideas are good examples. Yet I've talked to a lot of startups before launching the session with you, and all of them say that when it comes to fundraising, the key is finding a backer who fits your idea, your values, and your business needs. And every funder has their match. For instance, accelerators offer training, mentorship, networking, and a small seed check in return for equity. When it comes to venture capitalists, as far as I know, they bring bigger capital, often with the board seat attached. And then there are business angels, for instance, who invest their own money and open doors through their network, usually without asking for a board role. So, Mark, I have to confess, honestly, I've added 2 extra questions to today's agenda that we didn't run by you, but these questions are really important for the startup community. So I hope you won't mind me asking them.
Ask away. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you up front. No worries.
Thanks. So the first question, since you wear both the CEO and CTO hats at the moment, you get to see startups from both the business and tech angles.
Yeah.
In your view, what do founders most often overlook when joining an accelerator? Maybe it's about the technology itself. Maybe it's about their business model, or the way they tell their story to investors, or maybe there are some other reasons.
I think the main thing that they tend to overlook, and it's really the combination of me looking at it from the technology side of things as much as the business side of things, is that you used to be okay if after an accelerator you were, let's say, investor ready. So you had your pitch deck, you had your financial model, you have everything that an investor asks from you. But now that's no longer enough, because people say you cannot be depending on investment money for the next 3 years. What I'm trying to say here is they overlook how tough it is in only 3 months, because that's when an accelerator ends. 3 months, how to go from, let's say, close to MVP or a little bit lower from ideation up to real customers paying for your product. And that's something that back in the days, investors were saying, okay, I'll support you for a year or two and you can figure out a business model, etc. Now, what I actually notice with the investors, and again, to answer your question, what startup founders underestimate, I'm not sure if they overlook it, but they underestimated how tough it is to actually have people paying for your product, paying for the idea that you thought would be a nice thing to actually start selling. Because that traction will get you the next investment round. Whereas if you're still trying to figure out how to make money, you probably will end up with not enough investment round to go to market. And that's why we are pushing into accelerators, really the market readiness. Are you ready to start selling the product that you envisioned?
I love this because when it comes to the comparison between investment options and options for fundraising, they are really different. And for instance, next week I'll be hosting an expert webinar with the venture capitalist from the Middle East. And one of the big themes we'll explore is smart capital. This is how money today comes with strategy, mentorship, networks attached. And for instance, Europe is already a great example with over 200 accelerators running over 400 programs and more than 1,700 venture capital and private equity firms, according to Invest Europe. So yet to be added, accelerators don't just invest small seed checks. They prepare startups to raise bigger ones. And that's why you've correctly added, and thanks for this, wise thoughts regarding being prepared with your idea, right? Having some customers who are ready to buy this idea, your product, your service, and so on. The journey often peaks at demo day, when founders pitch to a room full of venture capitalists, business angels, whoever you invite as the startup accelerator. Mark, following your idea, from your experience, what makes an accelerator truly stand out and create lasting value for startups beyond just a demo day, when the startup can really pitch its idea in front of those who have money?
Yeah, so I think it's time for all accelerators out there to bust the myth that demo day is in fact investment day. Because we have so many startups that think, demo day, I climb up this hill, and on the top of this hill, there are 10 angel investors and 2 VCs and lots of bags of money. It's almost like the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow waiting for me as long as I make it to the top. That's not what demo day is about. Demo day is just I'm saying it's a massive achievement. It's a wrap up program. And the value of the program is actually that you are ready to start conquering the market or the world, or what the way you look at it. And yes, in on demo day, and we call it in fact not demo day, but we call it impact day. On impact day, we have investors, we have angels in the room, but we also have friends and families and just enthusiastic people about innovation in the room. All of them are there. And most of the time, when the startup actually pitches their ideas, that's only the initiation of, let's say, a little spark of interest. Somebody coming up to you and say, listen, hey, I saw your pitch. Thank you very much for your story. You got me interested. Let's have a chat. And some of those people might be mentors. Some of them might be investors. And some do actually get connections that will later on get them an investment. But there's something, and I still remember that 11 years ago, when I had my own, it was still called Demo Day then, by the way. I had the same feeling. I was like, okay, 200 people in the room, there must be at least 5 that want to invest in me. I had many conversations, but none were with investors. They came afterwards because I still was showing that I had traction. I was able to get free publicity. I was able to find the newspaper. So it takes a lot of, sometimes I also tell the startups this, it takes a lot, you need to kiss a lot of frogs before you find your prince. And the prince is actually the VC or the angel that will give you money. It's not a pitch at demo day and then you're done. It's a very small start of what can become your next investment round. Yeah?
Really, if you dislike frogs, maybe fundraising is not for you. At least find someone who is ready to support you on this way, being by your side when pitching and kissing those frogs instead of you. Mark, when it comes to promising domains, what about AI? Are you a fan of AI?
Sorry, I didn't get your question. Can you repeat?
When it comes to promising domains to get invested into, are you a fan of AI and any products related to AI?
So I'm a huge fan of AI because you can see it as a tool, or you can see it as now with agentic AI as a partner. So I can be more productive with AI at hand. If I need to translate a document, or now with the recent introduction of the AirPods 3, if you would talk in your mother tongue, I would just put in my AirPods and I can still talk to you in my mother language, etc. So with that, it's an enabler. And I would say use it, because if you don't and somebody else does, then that person might be quicker on either a market research or converting a document from a certain language to another, whatever, right? The problem what I see is actually some people think like, oh, you know what? I don't have to do anything myself. I'll just give it to AI. That will spark out a brilliant idea, set up my marketing plan. And the only thing that I have to do is be at demo day, show my stuff, and then the money will flow in. That's not how it works, right? It's the same like if you have a laptop, the laptop doesn't do anything unless you tell it what to do. And that's the same with AI. So I'm a fan with AI, but I had also too many startups coming in say we have advanced AI, and then I asked them, what do you mean with advanced AI? And they said, well, no, that's only on the roadmap. I said, okay, what kind of AI do you have? Well, we're using an LLM. Okay, but that everybody's doing that. So I'm okay, but then don't tell me that you're using advanced AI, because you're not. And I think that's where I think 3 to 5 years ago, if you would put blockchain on your pitch deck, people would be interested just because they didn't understand, but it was the next kid on the block. A year and a half ago, if you would put AI on your deck, then people say, yeah, I need you. Now people say everybody has AI, so it's no longer a
Yes,
differentiator. Yeah.
indeed. Large language models, no more a new fad kind of like that for the investors, because everyone uses LLM, AI, and everything that's related with this technology to launch businesses. So building an AI company right now is different. It means executing from day one with real workable products, not just pilots, right? And with proposing a reasonable scaling plan in front of the investors. Back in 2023, I often said that data is a new oil, especially when it fuels AI. And in retail, for instance, it powers smarter supply chain management, or even in finance, banks may use data to design new products and refine credit assessment. When it comes to manufacturing, for example, data helps optimize production cycle, even predicting downtime before it happens just by reading signals from the machinery. Mark, you worked across retail, finance, and manufacturing, if I'm not mistaken. What the biggest lesson you've learned about making data truly actionable in these sectors?
So the thing is, and it starts with that, and I had many conversations with also big international corporations saying, so finally AI can help me get all my data. And then I have to tell them, so listen, AI can help you inspect your data, or AI can help you turn your data into new ideas, right? If you're a pharmaceutical company, if you give it all your research, it might come up with a new medicine or a new product or whatever. What it doesn't do, if the data is not accessible, AI cannot magically get to it. And honestly speaking, many corporations, especially if they go bigger, their data is all over the place. And then AI is not the solution. You really need to get your data funnel right before you can ask AI, give me some hints about it. And that counts for, let's say, blue collar workers in the factories. That counts for even banks. I just finished a beautiful audio book on the Deutsche Bank. Their data was all over the place, right? And then AI will not fix that. What I do think is that synthetic data, so data that's not real data, but it's actually generated, that, and so you have a small little data set and you say, make this into a data set with 1 million records. That's something that AI can very much do with the same information and traffic in there. So the same information value. And then you all of a sudden have a big training data set where you can say, now let's do some scenarios on it. So I think that is what the whole AI and data spectrum is all about. Making sure that it is accessible, and if it is, you can now chat with your data without having to wait for somebody that has a BI background to give you a dashboard. And I think people should do that more. Chat with your data, chat with your documents, because there's so much knowledge hidden in what you already have that you will be amazed, if you do that properly, what you get out of it.
Thanks a lot for those thoughts, because in this case, millions of startups right now, or millions of listeners who can join us recording afterwards, can understand what should startup, which is called data-driven one, put their attention to when launching their business or presenting their idea, because putting the word data in your deck doesn't mean right now the product actually delivers real value from a data perspective, and this is true. At the recent AI summit I visited, I heard a phrase that stuck with me. The AI you train is like a baby tiger, cute at first, but it grows, and eventually, if not handled responsibly, big tigers eat humans. So that really nails it. Modern AI is all about responsibility. And even when prompting GPT today, you can literally ask it to be responsible, and it will frame its answers with ethical standards in mind. So here's the question related to how should we properly use data to comply with ethical standards, right? While being responsible at the same time. A question to you, Mark. How should founders balance GDPR, AI regulations, and ethical concerns without, say, slowing innovation? Because when it comes to data usage, there are a lot of questions related to what strategies we shall use in order to comply with local regulations and the regulations that will appear once we enter new markets.
So the thing is, GDPR has 6 main principles, and one of them is don't be data greedy or data hungry. Only gather the data that you tell in your privacy policy that you're gathering it. And not only that, tell the visitor of your website why you're gathering that piece of personal identifiable information. Where are you storing it? You need to have a process of like a record of accessibility. So who can access the data? And that, of course, is a bit in a, let's say, battle with AI, because AI is very data hungry.
Yes.
And with GDPR, you need to be less data hungry. That's why I think where synthetic data comes in, like I just said, if you have a small subset, if you have things set up on your website and you're gathering data of a couple of subjects and they consent to that, from that, I think in the Netherlands, if you have data of about 200 people, statistically, you can tell something about the 17 million people that live in the Netherlands. So you only need a small data seed in order to have something that you can actually say, this is the general rule of thumb. And I think with GDPR and AI, you cannot say, well, I'm doing AI, so let's throw GDPR out the window, right? GDPR is there. Funny enough, people say it's about privacy, but the P is actually from production. It's not, GDPR protection. It's not privacy. But we should protect PII, personal identifiable information, and the AI wave cannot circumvent that. So you just need to find creative solutions, knowing that you need more data in order to train your AI or whatever, or also set up, take ChatGPT, right? Take a team subscription and then tell it not to use your data in their training sets. So I would say move cautiously. You don't want to ruin your startup by being too sloppy on GDPR, thinking that you need it for AI to be sloppy. So that's my answer.
Thanks for sharing the feedback, and the ideas smells reasonable, especially when it comes to starting the idea or presenting this idea already in front of the investors, because those, especially seasoned technical experts who listened not to the first, not just the only one idea already of how to launch business, they really know what you're talking about and can approach you with way more deeper questions related to data usage, right? And it can be maybe the further basis that can forbid you from running further with your idea. So be ready to approach questions related to data when you are willing to present your idea, which is based on AI. And I've often heard experts compare today's AI wave with the dot-com boom of the 90s. And honestly, I share that mixed feeling as well. The era produced some groundbreaking companies, but it also wiped out plenty of ideas that just were not ready for the market. Tech moves fast. We all see this. What practical habits or strategies can founders and teams adopt to compete in AI and data domains, regardless of the fact to be ready for this data compliancy?
So I think if you now read what people foresee in the next 5 to 10 years, some people might say the first unicorn, that will be a single man band or women band, like one person running the company, is just around the corner, right?
Mhm,
So normally, also in our accelerators, we only take teams that have at least 2 people.
mhm.
It's the team dynamics that determine if you can push forward and etc. But with AI, I think we are right. Let's see how long it takes. But there will be a unicorn, a company that's worth more than $1 billion, based on just a single hand, clever somebody that uses AI and actually set it up. We have a partner from KPMG in the Netherlands who actually set up a company with a CEO, agentic AI, and a CFO, and the company is running itself. I'm not sure where it's going, but it's a funky idea, right? Let's see if I can
Wow.
set it up. Yeah, but also so the questions that investors now make, and I think they're right, and so do we, saying, okay, why do you need a marketing and salesperson, right? Why do you need a growth hacker? Why can you not do that with AI to uh, basically extend your runway? Because then you don't have to pay the person. You just put it into AI, and it will set up your well converting Facebook campaign or TikTok campaign. So I think that's more the question. People take it for granted, but if you as a founder say, I'm really putting AI to work to extend my runway and to extend my productivity, that can be a deal maker in your next investment round.
Thanks, Mark. Did not expect you will share so such an honest feedback with the listeners. However, I'm sure it will help those who are at the beginning of their idea launching. I'm quite surprised, but not maybe. It's not say a secret that AI really impacts the industry and the way people think in different cultures. And I'm okay if the next unicorn will be just one man company, right? Because indeed, why you need this person if AI can handle this perfectly, right? Just find the right data and train your AI agent. So this agent economy is really around the corner. Yet, until we are working with people, behind every company there are people, and startups are no different. Happily ever after could be the motto for cross-cultural teams, but the reality is usually more complex. Maybe you read this book, I'm not sure, Mark. In her book, The Culture Map, Erin Meyer shows just how challenging it can be to manage multinational teams, since every culture operates with its own level of context. And personally, I don't think you can truly grasp what mentality means until you worked side by side with colleagues from Asia, the Middle East, or even Europe. And real lessons come from those interactions and comparisons, indeed. Mark, a question to you. You worked across languages, across different markets and industries. In your opinion, what do you think regarding cultural fluency, in how it say in this way, why, if you have this feeling as well as me, why do you think cultural fluency is such an underestimated asset in global tech? Because smells like it is right now,
Yeah.
especially in the era of AI, when we don't care about cultural differences because AI will do everything instead of me. Unfortunately, no.
True, because so a couple of things. Let me address the AI part of your question later on in my answer. But let me first start. When I had my company, I thought, okay, I need to go into Europe, and it's a platform, and I just buy myself a new extension. It was tomkabinet.nl, and I bought like SP for Spain. I thought, like, okay, let's go into Spain. Right, just open up. It's the same platform. I just need to have some Spanish books, and then it's all good. But then, as it turned out, in the Netherlands, so one of these cultural differences, in the Netherlands, it's totally fine if there's something wrong with the platform, your ebook is not delivered, or you can think of multiple things that can go wrong. Then it's okay as a help desk to have an auto reply on an email as long as that's okay. So you could say in the Netherlands, it would be okay if your question about where's my ebook is handled by a chat.
Mhm,
Because people say, as long as my problem is solved, I don't mind.
mhm,
Now, if you go into Spain, that can only happen after they've talked to a real person. Because then, and I think it's still true, it's just a cultural difference. They say it's fine to have the chat, but not as the first point of contact. I need to be a second point of contact. Now, I have colleagues from Italy, from Australia. I have a development team in the Philippines. We have founders from literally all over the world, and you can see a lot of cultural differences. And I'm wondering if AI in the next 3 to maybe, well, yeah, let's do 3 years, right? Because that's a huge leap in AI. Currently, you can translate. So I can say something, for example, to my Italian colleague in my own language. What it does, it will translate that, my sentences, to Italian, but it will not put it in the way that he or she understands the, let's say, the sub-verbal communication there.
yep.
I can be angry in Dutch, whereas a German would say, I'm still friendly, and somebody in Italy would say, whoa, Mark was very rude. Right? So
Mhm.
I'd like to see if AI can help me solve that, because then I need to tell it, listen, I need to tell my colleague or I need to tell this founder, I'm not happy in a way that he or she in their culture understands my discomfort. And that's something that we are not there yet, because we just talk and it's literally translated without the context of saying, what are you trying to say?
Maybe it can be a very good idea for another startup to launch a business that really translate or give this context, taking into consideration cultural differences. So,
Yeah,
okay,
there you go.
quite insightful.
Yeah,
Those who are listening at the forefront of the next transmission, and maybe they can even take this idea. I don't mind. I hope, Mark, you also don't mind.
yeah,
If someone takes this idea and creates something special to the community, why not? So
please.
then, when it comes to the ground, I'm sure that people and listeners saying those who are working with you from day-to-day basis, they got accustomed to real examples because sometimes real examples teach us better than just theory. Mark, maybe you could give some real examples from your experience. What have you learned about managing global teams and clients, and how do you build trust and alignment across borders? Because when it comes to cultural differences, when it comes to managing teams, when it comes to managing customer base with AI or process automation tools, it's always about building this trust because first, if it's about customers, customers don't pay money until you've created this trust and visibility of your company for them, right? If they don't trust you, then don't give you their money. When it comes to teams, if they don't trust you, they won't follow you as a leader, right? So, and so on and so forth. We can keep moving with these phrases and issues. But what about your own experience and recommendations and maybe feelings you could share with the audience, like all the lessons you learned about managing global teams?
I think the lessons that I learned of managing global teams started when I had the honor or the pleasure to have a world trip of 2 years. So I was not working; I was just traveling for 2 years, and I started in Ecuador and I ended in Australia. And I've actually seen in a non-business environment a lot of cultural differences, depending on how do you approach people, what is truly being open to other cultures. Some cultures are less open to that, or in the Netherlands we say come over, but what we mean is come over, let's make an appointment, and it will take 6 weeks for you to actually come over for a cup of coffee. Whereas other countries you would say come over means now, and the coffee's already ready, right? So there's a lot of cultural differences out there, and also when I was bargaining in different countries or even different continents, there's a different way of getting a better price. Sometimes it's just offering a person. I used to smoke then a cigarette, whereas in some other cultures it's really to become a friend. And then still other cultures you need to be very tough, like no, I know my business, and you need to be a bit harsh. So it's really about reading those signs and saying, how can I get where I need to go? And I'm now managing a development team in the Philippines, which is a really different culture from the Netherlands. But at the beginning, I actually told them, listen, I'm not there to look over your shoulder. I'm not there to hold your hand. I will ask you things that you might have not done before. The only thing that I ask you to do is tell me when you're, I mean, you have your comfort zone. After comfort zone, you have your growth zone. That's where you actually will grow as a professional. But if I ask you something that's just too big or too daunting, you go into your panic zone, and nobody thrives in panic zone. It just doesn't work. But I don't know when you reach your growth or when you reach your panic. So tell me. And actually, lucky enough, two of these developers told me after 3 weeks of running with them, said, Mark, I said yes, but this is really my panic zone. So can we maybe shuffle these things? And I told them, but this is exactly what we need. So tell me when I push you too hard. And that's also goes with my Italian colleague, for example, Italian colleagues. Funny enough, people from Italy, they keep talking until somebody else starts talking. Whereas in the Netherlands, like you do now, you would wait for me to finish, take a breath, and then you will start talking. But if you don't know that, you can end up in a meeting without being able to say a single thing because they just kept on talking because nobody pushed the button. Now it's my turn. And those are funny examples, but I really think that working in a global company like Startup Bootcamp, and also my colleagues in the Dutch office, there's only 3 or 4 people that come from the Netherlands. The rest come from all over the world. That's really what makes it fun, because sometimes you have something that's very normal in one culture and it's very awkward in the other one. And if you treat it as, okay, this is where the fun is, then that works, right? Just be open to things that are read differently, not because people want to push you back, but they receive it in a different way. So make sure that you really tap into the communication style. That's, I think, the main thing. You cannot change somebody's cultures. You can change how people actually communicate.
Thanks, Mark. Smells like for building the trust, and the process of building this trust is just how long the distance is for this culture, right? So sometimes being straightforward is a good way to build this trust, and the fastest one. However, I know cultures, for example, some of my partners from China, you won't reach their opinions and real feedback until you handle at least 12 tea ceremonies with their team. So this is about not only the distance, but also about respecting the cultural traditions and this mentality. And this is the fact you mentioned a couple of
Absolutely.
seconds ago.
I had a lunch conversation once with a Japanese delegation, and I asked them, listen, don't take this as an offense, please. I'm just interested in your culture. But so people from Japan are known of not being able to say no easily, right? Sometimes people say they never do. Well, they do, but not easily. And I asked them, so what is it? Is it something that you learn? Is it out of courtesy? And then they told me something that was unexpected. They said, well, the thing is, we don't say no. If I ask you a question and it's a closed question, so the answer could be yes or no, they won't answer because they're first looking for what is the group thought about this. So
Yes.
they don't put their own opinion first, they put the group opinion first. In fact, I like that. And once you know that, then you are no longer offended if you ask a closed question that a Japanese person will not say yes or no. And in fact, you can say, do me a favor and get the group answer of this and tell me later on what you think about it. But be open, ask these questions, like, help me understand how this works. And then you're opening up the communication channel that I just talked about.
Mark, thanks a lot. Question to you with this experience. So what helped you more, reading books or really facing people and talking to them? Maybe the combination of it, or maybe you've completed some programs. What helped more?
So, sorry, the sound was not good. What helped more on?
What helped more in reaching this clear understanding of these cultural differences? Books, I don't know, the physical interaction with people, real experience, or maybe the combination of this?
Yeah, so I mean, books is always good to really get some theoretical knowledge, but I think really going out there, and I think no, I'm sure about the following. If you ever travel and if you have a Dutch passport, people are always very open. The passport is everywhere accepted, and once you tell people that you're from the Netherlands, they have a tendency to say, "Wow, you are always so open-minded." So they feel comfortable of sharing their personal experiences with you. But I think as a person, you could also say, "Listen, I'm here to really ask the questions to be able not to judge, but to understand. So don't talk to be understood. Ask questions to understand." And I think we have this famous BBC reporter, Mr. Leroux, I think, or something is his name, and he has the perfection of doing that. He can go into very non-standard communities and go there and just say, "I'm not here to judge, I'm here to understand, so later on I can have my thought about it." So I think books work, but to me it's really about the human interaction that is the trick to, well, most of the things in life.
Thanks, Mark. And this cultural difference is not only about people, mentalities, and nations. Investors and this investment environment also has some specific rules and maybe mentality issues every startup should overcome. And it's not about the mentality or culture an investor comes from, but about the experience he got before entering the stage and as an investor, and before starting to listen to you as a startup who's willing his money. And in his book Pitch Anything, Oren Klaff explains how framing strategies, for example, help build trust with different audiences, especially investors. And in this case, you need to be ready for sharp, provocative questions from business sharks, while also preparing thoughtful answers for the deep technical questions from seasoned tech investors. It smells like bringing the right candy for each child before stepping into the pitch room. And at the heart of it, having the right data is what makes that strategy work. And Mark, a question. What key takeaways or mindsets would you share with aspiring entrepreneurs, data professionals, and startup leaders who want to turn data into disruption, especially with their ideas, or when they come to this pitching stage and they need to prove their idea is working?
So any startup will go through a certain set of phases if you talk to an investor. If you don't have a product out yet, you're selling a dream. You're selling your own vision. You're selling something that's not there. And you need to find investors that believe in your dream. But what I'm saying is they need to believe in you. So let's say I'm raising investment. They need to say, okay, Mark can pull this off. Now, once you get into traction, once you actually start selling your products, then you have something else to sell. You have the proof of traction to sell. You have the proof of your product to sell. And that's when you really need to know the dynamics. We sometimes see founders that struggle to have the unit of economics there. They say, well, if I grow 10 times, my cost will also go 10 times. So there's never a hockey stick curve in the EBITDA that you can actually achieve on it. And I think knowing your numbers, knowing your business model, knowing which levers to use, that is when you go into selling beyond your dream, you're selling your data. That's what you need to bring into the room. I think it's super important to say that any investor is better with handling bad news than with handling surprises. So if there's anything in your numbers that you're unsecure of, don't think that you can trick yourself out of it. Just say, listen, that's a number, that's an assumption. We still need to validate that. But based on that assumption, this is where we can go. And I think it's better if you be frank about the things that you do know and the things that you still need to validate than trying to trick them into an investment, because that trick will not work. They will punch a hole in your air balloon and you will be going out the room without any investment. So, and I'm not saying that you have to tell them doomsday. Right? I'm not saying, oh, if you don't invest in me tomorrow, I'll be my company has to fold. That might be the case, but that's of course not a very good thing to sell, right? But if you say, well, I have very limited runway, and but if I got this bridge round, this is where I'll be at in 6 months. This is the data to back that up, and the only thing that is missing, I have everything ready, is this little investment of 500,000 that will get me to the next 6 months. That can actually work.
Sounds reasonable. And moreover, I've heard stories about the fact after startups got confessed about the problem they had and their business calculations, or say so about their assumptions and being not sure about some numbers, investors gave their money, plus also gave a team who supported the startup to calculate everything and get prepared before launching and entering into the market. It's about the fact that if you're not sure about anything, maybe it's a good way to be honest about that in front of the investors, because some of them will accept it, okay, go to the next stage once you're ready, get back, and someone who have the same experience can already support you at this stage and already invest, even though you're not sure about the numbers.
If you are in need of help, ask for help. Don't think that you are there to impress them and that they will invest in this super impressive story, because they hear so many pitches, they see so many funds. That's where it becomes where they say, no, I'll just go to the next. Let me give you an example of a couple of pitches that I did, which I was very open and I was asking for help, but it didn't work. I was already 40 when I had my startup. I was on stage pitching to find an investor that could invest to me 250,000 euros. And I saw it happening over and over again, that people say, but why are you pitching for 250,000? You with your network, you should be able to get that in a call, right? You should have your ball book ready and you should call. And I told them, listen, if that was the case, I would not be here. But because I was pitching there, and apparently I gave them a sense of this is already a high worth, net worth individual, there was a counterbalance of saying, why is he pitching for 250,000? What's going on here? So always make sure that the amount that you're pitching, the person who's pitching it, that story actually resonates, that people can understand what this is about, and that you can also show this is where your money will go in, or this is what we have tried before, etc. Just make sure that the story is sound, solid, and like that.
Well, real experience matters more than some theoretical stories. Thanks a lot, Mark. I'm sure that those who are listening will appreciate it. And if you don't mind, I'll also attach the link to follow you up on social media. And
Sure.
those who want, they will outreach you for more recommendations or just networking, who knows. Anyway, it's time to wrap up. Unfortunately, I wish we could speak more, but there is timing. Thanks a million, Mark, for joining us. Thanks a million for your wisdom shared within the session. Thanks a million for your honest feedback about your own path and making up your startup, making it working. And I'm sure that lessons you learned from this path really helped you to join the Startup Bootcamp right now and guide thousands of companies who are at the beginning of their way. To our listeners, if you enjoyed today's talk, give it a like, or maybe drop a comment, or also share this video with your community, especially startup founders. And remember, winning funding isn't about the perfect headshot. It's about showing investors you can turn data into results to bring the promised ROI. That's all for today, and catch you next time. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.